How has the Gaza war, a conflict thousands of miles away, managed to impact universities in the United States? This is a question that has been echoing through the halls of academia, from lecture rooms to student dorms. The onset of the Gaza war was marked by a series of events that unfolded rapidly and violently. Rockets were launched, airstrikes were retaliated, and the international response was swift and varied. This conflict, centered in the Middle East, had an unexpected ripple effect that reached the shores of the United States. As the news of the war spread, it found its way into the lives of students, professors, and administrators in universities across the country. The war was no longer just a distant event, but a topic of discussion, debate, and even division on campuses. In the midst of the academic year, universities became a microcosm of the larger international crisis. The war was discussed in classrooms, dissected in academic papers, and debated in student gatherings. Protests sprouted, with students rallying in support of both sides, and tensions rose as the war continued to escalate. The impact of the Gaza war was not confined to the battlefield. Its effects reverberated across the globe, sparking conversations, igniting passions, and challenging perspectives. Universities, the epicenters of knowledge and discourse, were not immune to this. As the war raged on, its effects echoed across the globe, reaching even the quiet halls of academia. In the face of war, students across the United States rose up, their voices becoming a chorus of protest. From the West Coast to the East, university campuses became platforms for resistance and advocacy. It all started at UC Berkeley, where an academic, Victoria Huen, sparked a wave of student activism by offering extra credit for attending pro-Palestinian protests. The initiative was met with both praise and criticism, stirring up debates about bias, anti-Semitism, and the role of academia in political discourse. The wave then swept across the country, reaching the ivy-covered walls of Columbia, Harvard, and Emory. Students, faculty, and staff at these prestigious institutions joined their voices to the chorus, expressing solidarity with the Palestinian cause and voicing their opposition to the Gaza war. The air was thick with passion and conviction as they held rallies, sit-ins, and teach-ins, transforming campuses into arenas of activism. However, these protests were not without controversy. A notable incident occurred at the home of Erwin Chemerinsky, the dean of Berkeley Law. A Muslim law student named Malik Afaneh confronted the dean during a dinner event, igniting a media firestorm. This incident underscored the complex intersection of free speech, activism, and personal boundaries. It brought to the forefront the broader issues of Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, and the challenges of activism in academic settings. The university administrations found themselves in a delicate balancing act. On one hand, they had to uphold the principles of free speech and academic freedom. On the other, they had to ensure the safety and well-being of their students. The debates raged on, in classrooms, on social media, and in the court of public opinion. Yet, through all the controversy and debate, one thing remained clear. Students were no longer mere observers of world events. They were active participants, leveraging their education and platforms to influence change. The campus protests, while controversial, highlighted the potency of student activism and the interconnectedness of our world. The echoes of the Gaza war reverberate, even now, through American universities. What has been the aftermath? In the wake of the demonstrations, universities found themselves in the heart of the storm. From Columbia to Harvard and Emory, the academic institutions that had once been viewed as havens of knowledge and free thought were suddenly thrust into the spotlight. The responses varied, with some universities expanding their extra credit options to include a wider range of activities related to the course's subject, while others expressed disapproval of using private residences for protests. But the universities weren't the only ones responding. Rights and civic advocacy groups stepped up, calling for disciplinary actions and resignations. Their voices echoed the sentiments of many students that the freedom of speech and the right to protest are fundamental and should be respected, even in the face of controversy. Yet, as the dust settled, the aftermath of the protests revealed a deeper issue. The controversy had drawn attention to the broader issues of Islamophobia, and anti-Palestinian racism, casting a spotlight on the complexities of free speech and activism in academic settings. The protests had not only been about the Gaza war, but also about the students' struggle against discrimination and their fight for justice. The ongoing impact of the Gaza war on U.S. universities has been profound. While the protests may have ended, the conversations they sparked continue. Students have been empowered, their voices amplified, and their actions serving as a catalyst for change. They've shown that they can and will stand up for what they believe in, even when faced with backlash. In the aftermath of the war and the protests, the universities have become battlegrounds for debates on free speech, activism, and discrimination. The echoes of the students' voices continue to resonate, shaping discourse and challenging the status quo. In a world ever more connected by the threads of global events, the impact of the Gaza war on U.S. universities serves as a stark reminder of the far-reaching effects of conflict and the power of student voices in shaping discourse.